From darkness to light, from confinement to freedom. This is the Reentry Journey Podcast with your host, Cardell Sims, bringing you the powerful stories of those who have walked through prison gates and built meaningful lives beyond them. These aren't just stories of survival. They're testimonies of transformation, second chances, and the human capacity for change. Join us as we explore the challenges, triumphs, and lessons learned on the reentry journey.
Welcome to another episode of the Reentry Journey. I am your host, Cardell Sims. Today, I'm honored to introduce our guest who represents a vital but often overlooked perspective in the reentry space. Someone who has dedicated nearly a decade to building bridges between those inside prisons and the world beyond. For the past 8 years, Diane Kahn has been working in the reentry space, not as someone who has personally experienced incarceration, but as a passionate advocate and ally. As the founding member and executive director of Humans of San Quentin, Diane has spent the last 7 years volunteering at San Quentin State Prison, helping incarcerated men earn their high school diplomas. But the work goes far deeper than just education. Through her hands-on experience, Diane has witnessed the profound vulnerability and emotional intelligence of the people society too often writes off. This experience ignited in her an unstoppable dedication to share their stories, their art, their poetry, and their humanity with the outside world. Humans of San Quentin has grown into a powerful platform to share the lives of thousands of incarcerated people through their art, poetry, and face-to-face interviews with people inside prisons and around the world. Each story shared transformation, and they shared transformed lives, helping those inside feel seen, heard, and connected to a world that has forgotten them. Most recently, Diane and her team launched a groundbreaking podcast that gives voice to both survivors of violent crimes and the individuals convicted of those crimes, creating facilitated meetings where healing, accountability, and reconciliation becomes possible. It's not your typical true crime podcast. It's about humanity, transformation, and the often excluded stories that need to be heard. Please welcome to the Reentry Journey Podcast, Miss Diane Kahn. Welcome to the Reentry Journey Podcast.
Oh my gosh, Cardell, thank you for having me. Such an intro there. I feel like I'm actually making an impact hearing it from you, so thank you.
Oh, no. You are making an impact.
I'm just doing my part. It feels like it's very natural, and it feels like it would be an injustice for me if I didn't share those voices and bring those voices inside out and educate people like I was being educated. So it doesn't feel like work. It feels like it's something that I wish more people did every day. But I do want to step back and say how nice it is to sit and talk with you. Most people I talk to haven't been into prisons, and I'll sit and talk from my little corner of the world and their mouth just drops open and they don't know what to say. So it's really nice to have someone like you who's been inside and done the hard work.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. Man, I'm just, when I was going through your bio and doing my research, and I see the things that you do, and then the podcast was really like, wow, that's a real unique perspective and something that needs. A lot of times you see programming, with me being a program a lot of times I run across programs and stuff that generally, honestly, they kind of just in it for the money, and they don't have an impact. And that has been a problem with programs in the correctional institutions since I've been running in and out of prison. I've been to prison 5 times. I started doing prison in the early 2000s. Got out. Last time I did prison time, I got out in 2017. I haven't looked back. And so, yeah. But the problem was the programming, especially in the early 2000s, and over the last 15, 20 years prior to maybe 2015, 2016, the program was more so a money thing, and people really, it wasn't making no impact. So that's why the recidivism rate went up, and it didn't address core issues that, you know what I'm saying, the population, the residents, the men, the women, we were more getting looked at just as a crime and not maybe core issues that drove us to these situations, from adverse childhood experiences to, you know, emotional learning, thinking, anything of that nature. So to look at the different expressions that your program offers and what it's based around, like the gut of it, oh man, I have to salute you and say I really, really, really appreciate the work that you do and the program that you develop.
Well, thank you. We get most of the people we hear from in prisons are done through the mail. So we have a little PO box in San Quentin Village, and I cry a lot because we get letters in there that say exactly what you're saying, but it really hits the root of the problem. So there's so many people, as you and I know, that have no one inside. Literally, there's not a free person outside, and they don't trust anybody inside. So they're literally alone. So when they, hear from us and even get a letter, they're blown away. Like there's this one guy, Alex Ross, he's our poetry teacher inside. And I can't call him a teacher because there can't be class differentiation inside, as you know, but he's our director. And he said he had written to probably over 80 different groups. And we were the first one he heard from, which just breaks my heart. And also what's interesting with him is he wrote to us the first time, gave us our story, and it wasn't really in a cohesive manner where I felt like I could actually put it up. But we worked together, finally got it up. And our program was born during the pandemic when we decided to go live. And when we were let back in and I'm meeting with Alex, he was annoying the hell out of me. He's like, do you do poetry? Do you do poetry? I'm like, Alex, I'm an English teacher, but poetry is really hard to edit. I don't really feel comfortable doing it. He's like, can we do poetry? Can we do poetry? Finally, the squeaky wheel, he convinced me and we did it and sent me his poem. And finally, Alex could sing. So he had learning difficulties, and all of a sudden I got to meet Alex and what he's thinking. So for me, that section on our web and all our channels is definitely where you can feel the heartbeat of what's happening with people inside and recreating life as we know it for them. So yeah, it's been a real blessing. So thank you for hitting on that. I also find that I have a lot of friends inside because they really see that what we're doing is pure and strictly into them. And there's times that I've been, and I sit down with people in prison, sitting across from me one-on-one, and I ask them, right, like I would you, how are you? And the tears go down because people don't. Like you said, they want to know about their crime, and I'm not in there to talk about their crime, and I'm really clear with them that it's not part of what I want to know. If that's part of their story, and if they want to get that off their chest, or they feel like they need to share it, then by all means. But yeah, I don't. So yeah, I think it's, you do kind things, and I think good things happen.
Yeah, most definitely. What started you into doing this? What made you start going, and what drew you to San Quentin and almost basically kind of like made you stay?
Right. That's a good question. And we have a communications director inside. His name's Michael Moore. And he wants to actually write a book or write something on who are the people that go inside and why. So I went in, I had, you might remember this movie, The Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was in around high school about that time when it came out. And there's a point when Jodie Foster walks down into that basement and Hannibal Lecter's there, and he just really psychologically manipulates her. And I've always wanted that kind of fear, Cardell. And here I am going into prison all the time and I don't get it. So it was always very intriguing to me, that psychological mind, which, as you and I know, there's not really that many minds inside that are strictly there to manipulate you just for the sake of manipulation. They might want to for other reasons if they're trying to get something out of you. But so I haven't experienced that quite yet. But After I saw that movie, I got busy with life, and I was teaching elementary school, and I got married and had 4 kids, and would actually drive by San Quentin, which is about 15 minutes from the house here, and with my kids in the car, and they would say, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's where the bad guys are." For me,
Right.
Its purpose. So I got my master's and my teaching credential from the University of San Francisco, and found out that they had a presence inside, and I jumped at it. So that's when I started teaching with a program that went in and taught the guys to get their GED, but it was a little bit different than the one that the state offers. So ours is run by outside people, and we do it at night. So guys could also work during the day. So a lot of people don't understand that, in order to make money, you've got to work during the day, which precludes you from going to school. They do not force you to get an education inside. So this gave them an opportunity to also get their degree at night. So I would pair up a free teacher outside, or a free person, for lack of better words, to bring it in, and then match them with our peer educators inside and teach class. So for me at that time, I was instantly blown away by the stories, the vulnerability, the truth. I mean, it seemed like an absolute crime for me not to come out and share those stories too. So here I am, my little nonprofit, Humans of San Quentin.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so, and I know in the Bible it said that, you said you was deeply moved by the vulnerability and emotional intelligence of the incarcerated men that you work with. Can you share a moment that fundamentally changed how you see incarceration and the people behind bars? Like how you went from, oh, that's where they put the bad guys at, to what you do today.
Yes. So it was glaring the first moment I went in. So I would go in the morning and teach curriculum to anywhere. I think we had about 8 guys on the team at that point. We'd sit around a round table, and we, as you know, usually always do a check-in. So you go around the table, say your name, say what is it you're carrying that day, or what's on your mind, or just how you're feeling at that moment. Some people can't say anything because they'll start crying. Some people will, tell you, like the rest of us, what exactly is going on. So instantly, here I am in, 10 minutes in, I've met these guys, I'm shaking their hand, they're sitting at a table, and they're talking like you and I. And I was instantly blown away, like, whoa, they're all carrying the same thing I am. And then as they're writing, like we would for the English class, they would talk about everything. So like there's one guy who's now been released. His name's Dwayne Whaley. And Dwayne, when he was inside, he tells me about his sister. So he grew up with a sister. The parents weren't really in the house at all. Mom was out on the streets. He wouldn't have heat in his house. He wouldn't have food. His younger sister was luckier than he was because the grandparents lived nearby, and she'd be able to go over there for food. So Dwayne was never seen and never heard. So I think there was an altercation or something with his girlfriend, another man in the picture. And he tells me the second that he pulled that trigger on that gun and that bullet left him, his chamber, he realized for the very first time he'd be seen. So I was like, oh, holy crap. Yeah, so it's, stories like that are like, oh my God, it comes down to the circumstance. And Cardell, you know this so much better than I do, but it comes down to who it is we're locking up. So my dream would be the day that you are put into those handcuffs, we would actually look at you and say, are you drug addicted? Are you poor? Do you have an education? Do you have a learning difficulty? And then decide from there where you should go, right? We shouldn't be looking at people for those crimes, right? I mean, you and I have met the people that, many do need to be taken out of the general population for a reason. And who knows what the amount of time is. But if programming is really doing its job and we're really given the opportunity to sit with these people and find out where it is they need to be filled up, they'll go back out into society. And then my biggest thing is that the narrative that we have being fed to people out here, like I was being fed, that we're going to be safer if you lock them up. Well, it's actually the opposite. If you are taken off that stigma. When you get out, people are going to look at you differently. You're not going to have that felon stamped on you, and you're going to, preclude you from getting a job. So, yeah.
And is that how the program transitioned from helping them get their high school diploma to evolving into the platform that it is today, with the storytelling, the art, the poetry, and the letters, with the outside world?
Kind of, but not really. So at the same time that I'm teaching, I was watching an online platform called Humans of New York. Are you familiar with that?
No, not at all.
All right. So there's this guy, Brandon Statton, and back in 2010, he was unemployed, lived in New York City, had a camera. He wasn't using, dusted it off, went downstairs and would extemporaneously just take pictures of people and interview them and put them up online. So at the same time I'm teaching inside, I'm also watching his platform. Fast forward now, and Brandon's in all over the world with translators. He can literally meet someone on the street, throw up a GoFundMe, and raise them $1 million overnight. That's not necessarily the impetus of our group, but I love the idea of just sharing these lives, right? So I went to a buddy of mine inside. His name's James King. He now works for the Ella Baker Center over here in Oakland. And he's like, I'm being released, but I have a friend I want to introduce you to. So he introduced me to Juan, who is was the editor of the San Quentin News, senior editor. And Juan said, Diane, I've been a journalist my whole life, and I've always wanted to share the men's story in blue, but never had a platform. So we pitched it to our public information officer at the time, and his name's Sam Robinson, and went to him with it. And he's like, oh my gosh, I love this program. I want to get it approved by the state. So I went to Sacramento and threw in our narrative, and Cardell, it was the longest 9 months of my life. It was 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Sam's like, I'm like, have you heard? He's like, no, they've changed admin here and there. Just hang on. I'm like, well, no, I can tuck under different groups that are in our media center in San Quentin. He's like, no, I want you guys to have this. So he comes to us in February of 2020 being approved. So I'm really kind of starstruck at that moment, like, whoa, I can really unleash this and share these stories like they are. So at that point, Juan and I had planned to have a picture of a guy inside. He would hook me up with him inside. We would interview them. Sam would look at it because, as you know, everything that goes in and out has to be seen by correctional eyes, as we call it. And I would put it up. So here we are a month later, beside ourselves that we can finally share. At that point, I'd interviewed maybe 20 guys. I was hesitant to interview anymore because I didn't want to get their hopes up. I didn't know where this program was going. So boom, I'm locked out. I've got my roster. Juan had a job where he was able to walk around outside a little bit from cell to cell. And we made an introductory packet. And I simply mailed it, and he did it cell to cell. Fast forward now, as you know, we're in over 200 prisons, and it's going up every day around the U.S. I've been invited into prisons in Dublin, Ireland, in Oslo, Norway, in Leicester, UK, Melbourne, Australia, Mexico City, Mexico, Guatemala City, Guatemala, Medellin, Colombia. So it has taken off like nobody's business. So, yeah. So we've got both going on. Back to your original question, both the high school program and this nonprofit.
Okay. Oh, wow. When you say that each time a story is shared, it transforms the life of the person inside. Can you give us an example of that?
So many. I mean, on a very basic level, we'll receive letters that people tell us that they were going to take their life until somebody was out there actually with them, and they can see the lights and the follows and the comments. We had one person who came to our meeting. His name is Freddie Lopez, and he'd been inside for a bit, and his face is covered in face tattoos. And he says, your program has changed my life. Can I read you my thank you letter? So to back up for you, Freddie going into prison with face tattoos. Prior to being in prison, he would get pulled over a lot. A lot would be dumped on him. He'd have to leave restaurants with his family. He always got a lot of crap for having his face tattoos. So he's thinking, okay, I'm going to be incarcerated. Cool. I won't have that to carry around with me so much anymore. He's like, I'll kind of be with my people or people that understand. And he goes to apply for a job in the cafeteria, and the woman there denies him. And he's like, what are you talking about? I've spent my life in restaurants. I've got quite a bit of experience. And she's like, I can just tell by looking at you that you're going to be a lot of trouble. So he's like, whoa, here I am again. So he spends a lot of time, doesn't get written up inside, has a good track record, and convinces her by other people and other teachers inside to take him on. She comes to him later and says, I really got to apologize to you. I shouldn't have judged you like I did. You're one of the best workers I've ever had. So he sees a flyer of ours on the wall in San Quentin and decides to write down a story. And he says, Diane, he's like, I didn't realize all the anger and the chip that I had on my shoulder until I was actually able to sit down and write it. And not only was I writing it for myself, but I also was writing it for my family and for people to see what the person that I really am. And until that moment, I never was. So what I love about him is we changed his life, but on the same, he's changing your and I's life today, right? We're able to see the humanity and what happens when you actually treat someone like a human. And you don't get that in prison. I mean, you've done time, Cardell, you're a number.
That's it. You're a number.
Body.
You're a number. Yeah, that's usually how it works. That people, it seems like on the outside, are people who never worked in prison, been in prison, that really care. I always tell people, I like working with the education, and I like working with reentry and chaplain services in prison, because them, especially in education, them are the most, to me, people that show that they are really invested in care. Yeah. With the guys and with us on the inside. And so, because it seems like everyone else already has that stereotype, because they think they know you just by looking at you, just because you got face tats or you got tattoos everywhere, they think they know you, or just because you have a certain demeanor that you kind of have to show and have in prison, that you think that demeanor defines you, and so, your work focuses on a lot of humanizing people, where society and who society often dehumanizes. So what's the most persistent myth or misconception about incarcerated people that you wish you could dispel?
I love that question. I think in its most basic terms, same as people are out here, don't judge somebody. And I think if you really sit down and listen to someone's story, you'll find that there's more that connects us together than pulls us apart.
Okay.
So that's a stereotype you have of a prisoner. I don't like using those kind of terminologies, or inmate. I think that people will find that basically that there's more that connects us, right? There's more that you can understand. They have the same highs and lows that anybody else does.
Right. Yeah. We're not different.
No. And people don't know that, right? Like, I'll bring people in, and I actually bring in a lot of our interns. So we have quite a few high school students that work for us. They're pretty much the core of our nonprofit. And they are blown away that these guys are locked up. Like, they'll leave prison, and Cardell, you feel the same way I do. You walk out and your heart breaks a little bit. It's like, why am I leaving you inside? We're working out here, but the people that are working with us, the people we're thinking of and talking to on the phone, are locked inside. It's not right. I mean, they've you've seen them rehabilitate. You've seen that they're going to do good work, and many of them are better people than many of the people I meet out here. Their emotional intelligence, they've really taken their time in that cell to go against the resistance of what's been given them. And they're fighting against the administration and just that culture inside, and are doing good for themselves. Like you mentioned earlier, those ACEs, those adverse childhood experiences, and they dive into them. They face the pain of that. So there are so many people that I believe are ready to go, should not be incarcerated. Yeah. So I want people to give people another chance. If they have the opportunity to hire them, to whatever, treat them differently, don't stamp them with something that happened to them years ago. Give them a chance, talk to them, find out where they are, find out what they've done for themselves, and decide for yourself how you're going to treat that person.
Right. Yeah. I got my co-founder of my tech company. He's been incarcerated 30 years. I met him when we was one of the youngest in the Supermax when I first went to prison. For the past 10 years, he's been coding. Every time he goes up, been a model prisoner, probably after 30 years, I'm going to say 30 years, right? He was never in a lot of trouble or nothing like that. He was incarcerated as a juvenile. He got caught his case as a juvenile. And every time he goes up, they give him, just because how much time he got, they give him a 5-year setback instead of looking at him, right? And really asking yourself, like, is he really prepared for society? And he is. To the point that he got so tired, he created an app for corrections to use, a recidivism tool. And what it does is it takes all your information and everything that you're doing while you're incarcerated, puts into a system. So when you go up to the parole board, it gives you a recidivism risk, whether you're a high risk or a low risk. If you're low risk, you should get the opportunity to be released and given an opportunity, given that opportunity. If you're high risk, then it tells you what you need to do, aligns you with everything that you need to do to start preparing yourself to be released. And so, but he deserves to be out here. And it's just unfortunate that, and it's 100 million, it's a million of these stories of guys that I know, we've seen that, man, they just wish they had the opportunity and they deserve the opportunity, but because of sentencing, and that's all that they're looked up on as their sentence, their number, you don't get the opportunity. You conducted face-to-face interviews with incarcerated people, around the world. What universal themes have you discovered across different prisons and different cultures?
So much, but what I think is interesting is when you really take away someone's integrity, it shows. So I remember being in Oslo, Norway, and I'm at a conference, and you know how there's tables around the outside, and they're either sharing information or selling something. And at this conference, there were several tables, and there were people currently incarcerated standing behind those tables. You're in a situation where, the streets outside, the doors are open, there's no correctional officers there, they're not in any kind of uniform. And it's a beautiful model there, whereas I met with a woman, she was running a woman's max security prison there, and they call them the governess there. And she said to me, she's like, Diane, when I get somebody in prison, I try to do my best to get them to sit down with me within 2 weeks. I really want, a lot of times they come in and they're petrified. They want to stay in their cell. They're not sure how to act. And she says, within 2 weeks, I have hopefully spent enough time with them to find out what they want to do when they get out. And she's like, and I look at the length of their sentence, and that's what I spend their whole time doing, is curating them for that job or that school or whatever it is they want to do. So what their part of their model is I don't know how long you've got to be in, a year or two, where they'll literally give you a couple hours off and drive you to the nearest town and leave you for a couple hours. You can go do whatever you want. You're not with a correctional officer. You're not chained or anything. And what's indicative, though, of that model, whereas in the U.S., if something happened to that prisoner that was then let out, they'd shut it down. No one would be able to go. But here, they keep bringing you back. And then you can get up to, I think, 3 weeks or so a year where you get to spend time with your family. Like I was one of the women giving us the tour that day, she actually got in her parents' car when we did. And she's incarcerated, right? Had taken us into her cell, and she had the weekend off with her family. But what's interesting when I talk to people like that, same as I do with, people that you and I know that are in solitary confinement, they still feel like they're in prison. You have taken away that core of them. And even though people like that can walk around and be out in the free world, they still feel like their dignity is taken away.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that because it's yeah, you in a sense you still got them people on you, right? Like that.
You're not making decisions at the end of the day, right?
You don't, that freedom's still not there.
Yeah. So it goes counterintuitive to what in most places in the world, and the US, since we're sitting here, is that we're into the model of that you've got to be put into a cell to be punished to learn that. Well, hell no. You can learn that a lot of different ways. You can take that away from someone and still have them rehabilitate and still have them feel confined and still make them a better person.
Mm-hmm. Man, that is true. One thing that caught my attention, I was wondering, I want to really know about was on your new podcast, right? You working with both victims and offenders, in a sense. I know we don't like to use that word, but we working with both sides. Let's put it like that. We working with both sides, right? How was you able to create that safe space in for both parties, right? To in these facilitated meetings, and what was actually needed in order for that healing process to start happening in those dialogues?
I can speak to it a little bit, but it is deep. It's not something that I could handle, but I'll tell you my journey and how it unfolded. So a friend of mine who'd been incarcerated for a long time, Miguel Quesada, he has a program where they actually do this hard work. So if you want to meet your perpetrator and you're a victim, you can get a hold of the state. And if you're lucky, within a few years, you're able to actually meet that person. But what has to happen, as you know, there's got to be, for lack of a better word, quite a bit of therapy and groups that meet with each party outside of prison before you're ever going to sit down to make sure that it's going to be both of you, or that your needs are met. Primarily the victim. What are they looking to get out of it? And a lot of victims will actually, as this process is going on, not want to. They decide that they're simply not ready. You and I know that there are millions of people in prison that really do want to sit down with those people they have affected and let them know and pour their heart out and share where they're coming from. So they had a day of healing in San Quentin. And Miguel says to me, with my access in prison, he's like, will you bring people in? I'm like, oh, of course. It was one of the most moving days I've had inside. So if you can imagine, they have a yard, and it's a pretty big yard, all covered in grass. Well, it's kind of dead grass, but it's nothing glamorous by any means. I bring in these 10 women, and they each stand on a platform. There's easily 1,000 men out there dressed in blue, and each one of them give their story, whether it be about them being raped, about their father being killed, about their daughter being killed by a drunk driver. And there was not a dry eye in the place. And as we're leaving, one of the women, her name's Martina, and I actually interviewed her. She's in the podcast, and she worked for a group called the Ahimsa Collective. And that's all their work is working with people one-on-one. They have a retreat center in Santa Cruz, and they can spend weekends and times getting these people prepared to speak with someone who has caused them all this harm. So they had really done the hard work of all that. So then once that miraculous moment happens, and as you and I know, you could prepare for years, and your moment comes to sit down with that person, and the administration, for whatever reason, can decide that they're not going to let you in that day. Whether it be for lockdown or God knows, may not have enough staff, whatever it is. So when that actual beautiful moment does happen, they're able to sit down. I was then given the opportunity. There's 4 different pairs that I interviewed, and talk to them about their experiences afterwards. And the most startling thing that came out of that for me is I feel like you, and as you can tell, I have a real torch that I'm carrying for people inside. I want people to know with every cell in my body. The people that have sat down with their victims, there's Elle, who sat down with Alan. Alan had killed her daughter. Her daughter, Emily, had just walked out of a Starbucks where she had had dinner with a friend, and Alan had been drinking that day at work and hits her in a car in the middle of the street. And he has to go out and see that car. And Elle even brings pictures into prison of her daughter fighting for her life, hooked up to all the machines in the hospital. And her mother there saying goodbye to her. And Alan will even tell you and told her that that's by far the hardest moment he has. And he sits and explains it to me. So I think what's amazing is these women. I also talked to Michelle, whose husband, who she had met when she was 16 years old, her high school sweetheart. They'd been married for 3 or 4 years. He was stabbed. These women whose life has been taken from them, they have more of a torch than I could ever have for getting people out of prison. Each one of them go back inside. Each one of them is trying to get their perpetrator out from behind bars. And they are advocates for this injustice like nobody's business. Cardell did not expect that.
Wow. Looking ahead, what's your vision for the humans of San Quentin? And for how we as a society can better support both reentry and healing for all parties affected by crime?
There's so much I want. You and I could talk for another hour about what I want, and I'm sure you would probably be better at it because you actually have lived experience. What I would like, and I think this generation that we're bringing up now is awesome. So I meet with a lot of teenagers that we work with, and the 20-year-olds, and we've raised them much differently than I was raised. Like in the U.S., I was raised during the era of Clinton, where it was 3 strikes, you're out, lock them up, we're all safer. The kids that we see today know wellness. They know how to take care of themselves. They know how to ask the right questions. We're in a beautiful time where you address somebody and who are you? Are you a she, a he, a them? They are really good listeners, and they aren't stamped with what I and my generation has been stamped with. So I feel like if we could have satellite offices like the one we have here at San Quentin and have them around the world, I think we would see, like you're talking about, more reentry facilities set up. How are we going to help these people when they get out? Because that's where the crux of it is. At San Quentin, you're given $300, and that's it. If you don't have somewhere to go, you're taken down to our local bus station, and you figure it out.
And
right?
That's crazy. It's crazy to say this, and in some places, $300, boy, they would love to get the $300 once they release, right? And we know $300 ain't really near enough, and so, yeah, and that's the crazy part.
Yeah, and you and I know people that have chosen to stay in prison because they have nowhere to go. I mean, that is sick beyond sick beyond sick. And then, you hear people say, oh, well, they've got, 3 meals and a cot or something, 3 hots and a cot.
3 hots and a cot. Yeah, I don't like them. Yeah.
God, if I don't want to talk to every single one of those people and take every single one of those people into prison. And yeah, like we talked about, yes, rehabilitation has to happen. Yes, they need to be taken off the streets. And a lot of them will tell you, and they write to us all the time, prison saved me. but it only saved them because it took them out of their current situation, not because it was healthy inside and not because it was
Right.
there, right? So those kind of situations, they've got to really go hunt that down, right? That therapy and really look inside themselves. So I would love for people just to look at people differently. And I would love to have people have, you, Cardell, talking to the world. I want to get up on every stage with someone with that lived experience who's already been previously incarcerated. And I really want them to see who it is we're incarcerating and the humanity that lives behind each and every one of us. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's impactful. Yeah, a lot of people who don't know my past, that know me, like I'm in the business field, but it's crazy because one of my businesses is my name, my brand, my reentry consultant. It's me, it's my life. You get me as a whole from the adverse childhood experiences that I went through, the trauma added to that while I was incarcerated and being released without any help and going back to prison and five times. So when I tell people my story who don't know, they was like, I would never guess, because they have this vision of what someone who's been to prison and getting out of prison. I don't know what this vision is, but I guess it's supposed to look like, supposed to act like I was supposed to be. It's crazy, right? My final question, I ask this question to everyone who comes on my podcast, and especially in the work that you're doing. I think this one word kind of probably goes along with what keeps you going during the hard days, because in this work, man, bearing witness to trauma, hearing these stories and things like that, it can take an emotional toll. But if you had one word to describe this journey that you're on and that you've been doing, what would that one word be and why?
That's a great question. The very first thing that comes to mind for me is compassion.
Mm.
So when I sit down and someone tells me their story, I feel like I've been put on a pedestal. Like, who am I to hear your story? Like, why are you confiding in me? Most people out here wouldn't tell you, right? Like,
Right.
it's just not open. We're not open to each other. So if someone is willing to sit and tell me what's on their mind, for starters, and go into those deep, dark places, it feels like a huge gift. So I feel honored that people really want to share that with me, and then also to have the trust of it, right? I mean, you're talking about a population that has already been stamped by the world out here, by all our big news channels, and then to actually regurgitate that and give it to me and not think that, oh my God, you could be getting a whole nother lashing here and we could actually relive what you did last time. So for them to see the heart that's in it and what we really care about, to me, end game, right? Drop the mic. If you're saving your own humanity for me by being able to share it. And I think what constitutes that, or why compassion is the word that comes to me, is that with this journey I've been on for these last 7-8 years, it's been kindness that I've seen in people. Like, in each and every one of us, there is that kindness, and it shows with our program. By telling someone's story, people are less to judge. So we haven't received a backlash of going against what we're doing, because it is so innate and so part of our culture of storytelling. So for me, it's compassion. I keep that in myself every day, and I hope that those people reading our stories and those people looking at people currently and previously incarcerated and our youth that's going through it, right, that very much has that road to prison with them, show them compassion. I think it can change our world.
Compassion. Yeah. I think you got to be effective and to make an impact in this arena. That's the number one thing you got to have, is compassion, empathy. When I train like reentry peer navigators, especially those who want to do the work but they haven't been on the inside or haven't been to prison, that's one of the first things we focus on, is the compassion and empathy. Because if you can't have that, then you don't need you don't need to be in there for one, right? Yeah, you don't need you don't need to be in there for one, and yeah, I ain't gonna waste my time or your time because I wouldn't want you in there if you don't have that. So most definitely. So how can people know more about you and the work you do in the organization? Any websites, social media?
Yep, thank you. So we're on all the social media channels, everything, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're also on, not Twitter, it's X now. We have a website, which I love our website because there's quite a few people that do not have pictures, which is startling when you talk to people out here that all of us walk around with cell phones. You can get pictures of yourself all day. There are millions of people in prison who are literally erased, that have no picture of themselves. So we have their handwriting, and I edit it and put it up on our website. So that's one thing I love about our website. There's plenty of people that their lives are shared on there without having a picture of their face. So that is wonderful. And then we do have the prison podcast that you and I talked about earlier, the victim offender. I would love to keep that going, and we need funding for it. So if there's anybody that wants to get that going with us, we'd love a sponsor. And then yes, you can donate right on our website. It's all of our channels are humansofsanquentin.org. You can go and donate, and literally every dollar helps us get stories from outside, and also gives me the opportunity to sit here with Cardell, and the two of us shout our voices to everybody so we can really look at incarceration differently. So yes, thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on, being a guest of the Reentry Journey podcast. I'm glad that what's his name reached out to me and filled out the thing because it was really inspiring for me as I was doing research and see the work that you do, and then hear you talk about it and share the stories. It really inspired me to kind of open up and expand more, not U.S. focused, because I wanted those experiences that you experienced over in like Norway, and seeing those things, and how can I take some of those things and implement it to the T, to the as far as I can take it, right? Because we know in corrections, to get in prisons, like the good ideas a lot of times, you only can take them to a certain extent, right? So it was really inspiring to really see the work and the lives that you impact, and not only that, giving those on the inside of the voice, because a lot of people don't figure that out, especially in our max population offender prisons. We see a lot of programs and work done as far as those coming home, but in those max facilities, super max, you don't see a lot of that, and a lot of those guys really lose their voice. They lose their identity. They just thrown away, and there's really no avenues for them. So I highly appreciate the work that you do. I would love to stay in contact, even collaborate on some things if possible, and continue expanding the work that you're doing.
Well, I just love it. I've got to give some good kudos to you for spending time inside and really looking out for the people that are inside, and for you to be able to take all your experience. I mean, you're so much higher up than I am with everything you know, and what else that you can do, and what you're doing with reentry is just gorgeous. So big hats off for you for listening to me today, because I can imagine a lot of it is, innate. You already know it. So I appreciate you.
I don't know. I know what I know, but the different aspects. I always like to understand, why, those who haven't been to prison but have the capacity and empathy, and to bring out the best of someone who's going through their worst. And when I mean worst, I'm not just talking about like the physical condition, but the emotional, the mental condition as well. And if you can get guys on the inside to open up to you, then you was placed there for a reason, because you and I both know not too many guys opening up on the inside, and that space is very much needed, because we're not opening up to ourselves. These are homeboys and nothing like that. So for you to come in there and provide that space, man, it's fabulous. So
It's
I
huge. It's
appreciate you
huge.
being a guest. It's huge. So I
Yeah.
look forward to collaborating. I really do. I see a lot of things we can do together in this
Yeah.
reentry space. But
Yeah.
thank you for being a guest on the reentry journey. I wish you nothing but the best on the work that you're doing and that you continue to do. And like I said, any way we can collaborate, any way I can help out, feel free to reach out to me. And thanks for being a guest on the reentry journey.
Thank you for
This is
having
going
me.
to be, it gets broadcast to guys on the inside as well. So if
Really?
there's any final messages, any final quick message that you'd like to leave, feel free.
Oh my gosh, this is wonderful to hear. So we recently got on the Adovo and their tablets. Is that where you get to share this?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. So those people watching that are on the Adovo apps, we are there. So they can punch in Humans of San Quentin. They can hear our podcast. They can read our whole introductory packet, the one I told you about earlier that Juan and I made, and that will tell them. So we don't have the capability, we don't have the staff for them to actually message us on the app or submit their story on the app. But we do have our P.O. Box, so they can write it to Humans of San Quentin, P.O. Box 417, San Quentin, California, 94964. And ideally, they send it with their picture and their story. And we try to put up as many as we can. And yeah, it'd be great to hear from them. And it's a blessing now to think that they can actually hear you and I talking here. So bring me to tears, but I want them to know that there's people out here that care about them, that see them. We're here for you. We want to share your story. We want you to be successful when you're out. We want to keep you healthy while you're in there, and we want to keep you safe. So we all feel alone, but when you're in those cells by yourself and just emotionally beating yourself up, know that there's people here that want you out, that want you safe, and we want you to have a successful reentry. So I could speak to Cardell, I think, and for myself, reach out. We're here.
That's it right there. This is another episode of the reentry journey. Most definitely you all reach out. I'm gonna give you some ideas. We'll meet up after the podcast, maybe later on this week or so, but I had to write some things down because something came to my mind. But for all the guys on the inside, those of you that's going to be tuning in on the inside, you know what I always say: don't let the limitations of your background reduce the height of your potential. Outgrow what you were born into, emotionally, mentally, and physically. This is another episode of the reentry journey. I'd like to thank our guests, Ms. Diane Kahn, and the Humans of San Quentin. The Humans of San Quentin organization and the work they're doing. We appreciate you all, everyone that's involved with her team, everyone that's going in there, showing compassion, showing love, showing empathy to those who sharing their heart, their soul, who needs their voice heard, who needs their help, who just needs someone to listen to them. I appreciate you all as well, because it's not easy and you got to be built a certain way to go back in those walls with compassion and take on those things. So again, thank you all. For everyone else that's tuning in to the reentry journey, I'm almost up on my 100th episode. I'm trying to figure out me a ultimate guest to bring on. So I don't know. I might have some giveaways and stuff like that. But it's, even the guys on the inside, I'll figure out a way to convince the staff to let us do something. So we almost on the 100th episode. If y'all think of somebody I should have that I haven't had that y'all feel is the need to, reach out to me through the email system or whatever, and we can make it happen. Once again, this is the reentry journey. And until next time, be blessed, be great, stay positive, and don't hold it in. I'm Cardell Sims. Thank you.
From darkness to light, from confinement to freedom, this is the Reentry Journey Podcast with your host, Cardell Sims, bringing you the powerful stories of those who have walked through prison gates and built meaningful lives beyond them. These aren't just stories of survival. They're testimonies of transformation, second chances, and the human capacity for change. Join us as we explore the challenges, triumphs, and lessons learned on the reentry journey.